Hello, everyone. This is episode 2 of a new series, Magnus versus Hikaru, in which we will follow the long rivalry between these two chess legends. And in this game, which took place in 2018, the time control is 1 minute plus 1 second per move. So you heard that right. They have 1 minute to play the entire game plus 1 second added per move. And so we'll probably see a crazy game. Let's dive in here. And both players are just trying not to run out of time. So with the white pieces, we have Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen with black. And so we have b3. And so Nakamura probably plays this move to just wait and see what Magnus will do. And Magnus plays a5. Usually a move played by beginners, as it does not control the center. And a lot of beginners try and bring their rooks out to a6 and then over into the center. But here Magnus is threatening to capture space on the queen side, but to possibly push forward here and attack this pawn, which is moved to b3. And so we have bishop to b2, the purpose of moving this pawn to b3 to allow the bishop here to eye this diagonal up to Carlsen's king side, which he will most likely try to castle there, as he has already pushed this pawn on the queen side. And so here we see that pawn moving forward, and this may also be moves that can be played very fast with such a limited amount of time, with 1 minute per person, on each side. And so this move is ignored, and then we have e3, creating room to develop the bishop and the queen. And so here we have e3 by Nakamura as well, doing the same. And then the knight develops to f3, and knight to f6, and knight to c3. And finally, this pawn, instead of capturing here, just pushes forward, gaining even more space, and attacking this bishop. And so the bishop must move away, as the pawn is protected by this rook. And so after a retreat by the bishop, we have d5, gaining more space and taking control in the center. And so white pushes forward as well. And we have a symmetrical pawn structure in the center here. And now, normally, we see here that this pawn, or excuse me, this knight is blocking the c2 pawn. So normally in this position, this pawn wants to jump forward here and attack this center pawn. And we see black's knight is not moved yet. So this the same here with black. Normally wants to push this c pawn forward to c5 and attack this center d pawn. And so here we have a pin, preventing this knight from moving, as it's pinned to the king. And so the pin is broken by placing this, excuse me, the bishop here to d2 to protect this knight. And then we have castling by black and development here, the bishop moving up to d3 and preparing white to castle on the king side. And then rook to e8. So the only move for this rook at the moment, but here it can help this e pawn possibly advance forward later in the game and try and put pressure down this e file. And so the knight moves here, and now this bishop is under attack. And so the bishop captures, and then we have a recapture with the queen. And now all the pieces are off the back rank except the rooks, and so white will probably castle kingside here. And then we have knight to d7, developing the knight, fortifying this knight, and possibly assisting with a c5 pawn push, or maybe even an e5 pawn move. And here we see, as I mentioned earlier, this c pawn is now able to move forward and attack this strong central d5 pawn. And we have a counter attack with e5, and this move also threatens to push forward and fork the bishop and the knight here. And so a capture by the pawn, and then capture by the knight, so exchanges in the center here, and now castling by white. And then here is where probably time played a factor, as this game with a 1 minute time control, I imagine by now players were starting to run out of time. And so the major mistake of the game that decided the game in Hikaru Nakamura's favor was this move by Magnus, capturing here and attacking this bishop. But here we see bishop captures on h7, checking the king, but now the unprotected queen here is in trouble. And so Magnus resigned here, because on the next move the queen can capture black's queen there. And so Magnus resigned, and time was probably a factor in this mistake here. But I thought this was a quick and interesting little game, and it was amazing how well these players, before this mistake, how they can play with such lightning speed and still find good moves, and us mere mortals would probably make many mistakes in a 1 minute blitz game. So, or well, blitz would be 5 minutes, so this is what, bullet, I believe. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the second episode of this Magnus versus Hikaru series, and we'll be following and reviewing games in the rivalry between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave comments or suggestions. Thank you, and have a great day.